It was a typical bright afternoon, the kind where the sun shone brightly, but didn't beat down too harshly. The air was warm, and the streets were bustling with the usual crowd as people went about their daily routines. The sound of cars on the street, the faint hum of a nearby gas station, and the occasional chirp of birds filled the atmosphere. Everything seemed ordinary, but little did anyone know that something extraordinary was about to unfold in the most unexpected way. A biker, clad in a leather vest, black gloves, and a pair of stylish sunglasses, cruised down the street on his sleek, rumbling motorcycle. His tattooed arms flexed with each turn of the handlebars, and his rugged exterior commanded attention. The biker was in a rush, his mind focused on something ahead, maybe a meeting or an errand he had to complete. His bike roared, cutting through the calm afternoon air as he sped down the road. The pavement under his tires seemed to fade away, but his focus was entirely on where he was headed, until the unexpected happened. As the biker zoomed past a quiet intersection, he noticed a small dog walking leisurely along the side of the road. The dog, a playful and innocent corgi, trotted happily beside its owner. The woman, dressed in a simple yet practical tank top and black jeans, walked gracefully beside her dog, enjoying the beautiful day. Her face was calm, her thoughts drifting in the serenity of the moment, oblivious to the danger fast approaching. The biker, too focused on his destination, didn't see the woman and her dog ahead. In the blink of an eye, the biker's motorcycle swerved slightly, and without realizing it, his boot connected with the corgi's body as it walked too close to the bike. The impact was jarring, a hard, sudden kick to the unsuspecting dog's side. The poor animal yelped in pain, stumbling backward as the force of the kick threw it off balance. Its tiny paws scrambled on the concrete as it tried to regain its footing. The biker, still unaware of the situation, didn't even slow down. He was so caught up in his own world that he didn't hear the dog's distress or see the woman's alarmed expression. The sound of his engine drowned out everything else around him. The biker continued speeding forward, oblivious to the chaos he had just caused. The woman, who had been walking beside her dog, felt the sudden pull on the leash as her dog stumbled and yelped. She turned, her heart dropping as she saw her beloved corgi struggling to stay on its feet. Panic surged through her as she rushed to her dog's side. She knelt down, her eyes scanning for the source of the disturbance. It didn't take long for her to realize what had happened. She saw the biker's figure fading into the distance, still speeding away, completely unaware of the damage he had caused. Her mind raced. Was the dog injured? Could she help it? She checked for any signs of blood, but luckily there were none. However, the poor corgi was clearly shaken, its body trembling in fear and pain. She gently scooped it into her arms, comforting the animal as best as she could. But even as she soothed the dog, a feeling of frustration began to build within her. She couldn't believe what had just happened. The biker had struck her dog with no regard, and yet he didn't even stop to see the consequences of his actions. The woman stood up, looking down the street, hoping to spot the biker again. She couldn't let this slide. This wasn't just about her dog. It was about standing up for what was right. The biker needed to be held accountable for his actions, and she wasn't going to let him get away with it. With her dog still in her arms, she started walking toward the gas station, her mind set on finding the person responsible. She didn't know it yet, but the journey she was about to take would not only change the course of the day, it would spark an unexpected chain of events that would leave everyone involved forever changed. At that moment, the biker was just a blur in her memory, but soon he would come face to face with the reality of what his careless actions had set in motion. And little did he know, the woman walking behind him was not just anyone. She was someone who wouldn't back down easily, someone with power and influence, and someone who would make sure he understood the full weight of his mistake. The biker had no idea what he had just done. To him, it was just another day, another ride, and another street he had sped down in his quest to get somewhere. The sound of his engine, the thrill of the open road, and the freedom of his ride were all that mattered. He had no clue that his momentary distraction, that brief misstep, had set off a chain of events that would soon change his life. But the woman and her dog were not going to let this pass quietly. They were about to change everything. Meanwhile, the woman, still shaken by what had happened, carefully cradled her dog in her arms as she walked into the nearby gas station. Her eyes were focused, but her mind was racing. She knew she had to do something more than just make sure her dog was okay. The sudden pain in her dog's eyes and the shock of the moment had left her with more than just a sense of concern. It had ignited a fire within her. Her dog was hurt, and someone had to answer for it. She checked her phone, scrolling through the contacts until she found what she was looking for. With a determined look on her face, she dialed a number she knew she could count on. Ronda Rousey. Her name brought an instant sense of comfort and reassurance. She was someone who had faced adversity, stood up for what was right, and had been a role model to so many. Ronda was not just a fighter in the ring. She was a fighter in every aspect of her life. And now, the woman needed her help more than ever. As the phone rang, the woman's heart pounded. She had no idea how Ronda would react or what might happen next. But she knew one thing for sure. This was not just some random biker. This wasn't a situation where she could just let it slide. Her dog was more than just a pet. It was family. And she would do whatever it took to make sure it was safe. When Ronda finally answered the phone, the woman didn't waste any time. She immediately told her about the incident. The biker had kicked her dog, and while the injury wasn't severe, the emotional toll on both the dog and herself was hard to ignore. She explained how the dog had been in pain, how it had struggled to keep its balance, and how, by the time she had looked up, the biker was long gone. Ronda listened intently, her tone calm but full of concern. "Where is the biker now?" Ronda asked after a brief silence. The woman explained that she had no idea where the biker had gone. All she knew was that he had sped off without looking back. Ronda's mind started to race. She understood the urgency of the situation. This was not just a random act of negligence. This was a direct assault on an animal, and it needed to be addressed immediately. "Don't worry," Ronda said with confidence. "We're going to take care of this." Ronda had dealt with her fair share of tough situations. In the ring, she had faced some of the fiercest competitors. But in this moment, it wasn't about fighting opponents. It was about doing what was right. Ronda had always been known for standing up for animals, for being an advocate for those who couldn't speak for themselves. She knew this was a moment where she needed to step in, not just as a UFC champion, but as someone who cared deeply about justice and fairness. "I'll find him," Ronda added, her voice steady with determination. The woman, still holding her dog close, felt a sense of relief wash over her. Ronda's words were like a promise. She was going to make sure the biker was held accountable for what he had done. And she wasn't going to back down. As Ronda hung up the phone, she quickly began making plans. She knew the biker couldn't just get away with this. She would track him down, confront him, and make sure he understood the consequences of his careless actions. This wasn't just about the dog. It was about showing that there were consequences for every action, no matter how small it seemed at the time. In that moment, the biker's carefree ride down the street would come back to haunt him. He had no idea that he had kicked a dog that was owned by someone who wouldn't just sit back and let it go. Ronda Rousey wasn't just going to let this slip through the cracks. The biker was about to realize the full weight of his mistake, and it was going to change everything. The biker had no idea what was about to hit him. After that brief, careless moment where he had kicked the dog, he thought it was just another incident, a small, insignificant mistake that would fade into the background of his busy day. But as the hours passed and the adrenaline of his ride wore off, he began to notice something wasn't quite right. His phone buzzed, and an alert popped up on his screen. A news story, a viral post, a video shared by a bystander. It was everywhere. The headline read, "Biker kicks dog without realizing it's Ronda Rousey's. You won't believe what happens next." Confusion set in. Ronda Rousey, the UFC fighter, His heart skipped a beat as he remembered the woman walking her dog at the gas station. The same woman whose dog he had kicked. He hadn't thought much of it at the time. Just a quick kick, a quick moment. But now, with the realization of who the dog belonged to, his stomach tightened with fear. This was not just any random pet. This was a dog owned by one of the most well-known figures in the world of combat sports. The biker knew he had made a huge mistake. His phone buzzed again, but this time, it wasn't a notification. It was a call, an unknown number. His hand trembled slightly as he answered. "Hello." His voice was shaky, betraying his growing anxiety. The voice on the other end was calm but firm, unmistakably filled with authority. "Is this the man who kicked my dog earlier today?" The biker's breath hitched. He recognized the voice immediately. It was Ronda. Her calm tone did nothing to ease his fear. Instead, it sent a chill down his spine. The severity in her voice made it clear that this was not something to brush aside. "Yes, I didn't mean to. I didn't know it was yours," the biker stammered, his words faltering. I wasn't thinking. I didn't realize it was your dog." Rhonda's voice grew sharper. "You don't need to tell me about your intentions. You kicked my dog, and that's all that matters. You heard it, and now we need to talk about what happens next." The biker's heart pounded in his chest. His mind raced, trying to find a way out of the situation. He had never been in a confrontation like this before. He was used to dealing with tough guys and streetwise situations, not having to face the fury of someone as powerful and influential as Ronda Rousey. He didn't know what to expect. Was she going to sue him? Have him arrested? "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your dog. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right," he said quickly, trying to pacify her. But Ronda was not interested in empty apologies. She had always been someone who stood up for what was right. Whether in the octagon or in life, she wasn't one to back down from a fight, especially when it involved something as important as her dog. "I don't need your apology," Ronda replied coldly. "What you did was careless, and now you need to face the consequences. I'm coming to see you." The biker's stomach twisted in knots. He tried to backpedal. "Listen, I wasn't thinking. I'll pay for any damages. I'll make it right. Just don't come after me." Rhonda's response was unwavering. "It's not about the money. It's about respect. And right now, you don't have any. Meet me at the gas station where you hurt my dog. We'll talk about what happens next." The line went dead. The biker stood there, staring at his phone, his mind spinning. He couldn't believe what was happening. He had just kicked a dog. Sure, it was an accident, but now he had to face Ronda Rousey. She was on her way, and he had no idea what to expect. His previous bravado had vanished, replaced by the sudden realization that he had made a terrible mistake. As the time ticked by, the biker felt the weight of his actions pressing down on him. He thought about the dog, about how it had yelped in pain and tried to recover from the kick. He thought about the woman and the look of concern on her face as she had rushed to her dog's side. And now he was about to face the one person who had the power to turn his world upside down. He knew this wasn't just about the dog anymore. It was about accountability. It was about understanding that every action has consequences, and sometimes those consequences are bigger than you could ever imagine. The biker stood up, walked to his bike, and started the engine. He knew he had no choice but to face Ronda, but deep down, he had a sinking feeling that this was only the beginning of a much bigger story. What was coming next, he couldn't even begin to imagine. The biker's hands were shaking as he parked his motorcycle near the gas station. He wasn't sure what to expect when Ronda Rousey arrived, but the pit in his stomach told him it was going to be something far beyond what he had imagined. He had tried to prepare himself mentally for whatever was to come, whether it was an angry confrontation, legal threats, or some kind of punishment. The weight of his mistake felt unbearable, and he knew he was about to face the consequences. Ronda was already there when he arrived, her presence unmistakable. She stood tall, calm, and composed, Her arms crossed as she leaned against the side of a building. Despite her cool demeanor, there was an undeniable intensity in her eyes. The biker couldn't help but feel a wave of guilt wash over him as he approached. He had no idea what to say or how to explain himself. His mind raced, searching for the right words, but nothing seemed adequate. "Are you the one who kicked my dog?" Ronda asked, her voice measured and firm. The biker nodded, unable to meet her gaze. "Yes, I didn't know it was yours. I swear, I didn't mean to hurt the dog." Ronda's eyes narrowed slightly, not with anger, but with a deep sense of disappointment. She wasn't angry, not yet, but the biker could see the hurt in her expression. Her dog wasn't just a pet, it was family. And to her, this wasn't something that could be brushed aside with an apology. "You didn't mean to, but you still did," she said quietly. "And it's not just about the dog. It's about respect. You need to understand that." The biker swallowed hard, realizing the weight of her words. For the first time, he began to understand that this wasn't just an issue of an accident. It was a matter of accountability, of recognizing that actions have consequences, even when they are unintentional. But even more than that, it was about showing respect for others, for their pets, and for the lives they cared about. "I know I messed up. I don't want to make excuses for what happened," he said, his voice tinged with regret. I didn't realize how much it would hurt. I'm sorry." Ronda studied him for a long moment, her gaze unwavering. She had seen her fair share of people who made mistakes, and she had dealt with her own share of missteps in her life. But what truly mattered was how people owned up to their mistakes and whether they learned from them. She didn't want just an apology. She wanted to see a change, a willingness to take responsibility and grow from the experience. "You're right," Ronda said after a pause. "You didn't mean to hurt my dog, but what you did was careless, and you need to do something about it." The biker nodded eagerly, desperate to make things right. "I'll do anything. I'll pay for the vet bills, whatever it takes." But Ronda held up a hand, silencing him. "It's not about paying money. Money doesn't solve everything. This is about learning what it means to show respect and understanding the impact of your actions. And I think there's more you can do than just offer money." The biker's confusion deepened. He had no idea what Ronda was thinking, but the way she spoke suggested there was more to this than just an apology. He waited for her to continue. "I want you to promise me something," Ronda said, her voice softening. "Next time, when you see an animal, any animal, treat it with respect. And when you make a mistake, own it. Don't try to run from it. And most importantly, don't make that same mistake again." The biker's heart sank as he realized that this wasn't going to be an easy fix. Ronda wasn't asking for something simple. She was asking for a real change in how he viewed the world around him, how he understood the consequences of his actions, and how he treated others. "I promise," the biker said sincerely. "I won't make the same mistake again. I'll be more careful, more aware. I'll take responsibility for my actions." Ronda gave him a small nod, the corners of her lips curling into a faint smile. It wasn't an expression of victory or triumph, but rather one of understanding. She could see that the biker was sincere in his apology, and that he was willing to learn from his mistake. And in that moment, she realized that this wasn't just about the biker or the dog. It was about the opportunity to teach someone something important. "You've learned something today," Ronda said. "And that's what matters. You've got a chance to be better, to be more aware of your actions. Don't waste it." With that, Ronda turned and began to walk away, her dog trotting happily by her side. The biker watched her for a moment, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. He had been ready for anger, for punishment, but instead, Ronda had shown him something far more valuable: grace and the power of personal growth. The biker stood there, watching them disappear down the street, and for the first time in a long time, he felt truly moved. He had been given a second chance, and he wasn't about to let it slip away. From that moment on, he knew that every action he took, no matter how small, would have consequences. and he was determined to make sure those consequences were ones he could be proud of.